Last game week, the only forward I recommended was Beto. If you followed that advice, you'll be happy with the points in your team. Let's see who I recommend this game week. I'm also going to tell you the best fixtures for attackers and defenders, and my transfer plans that suit my chip strategy. I am going to spend my free transfer that I've got, but it's not getting spent on Pickford. I actually thought he was going to get a clean sheet last game week when it was half time. Everton dominated United in the first half, but the story wasn't quite the same in the second half. Nevertheless, Everton still have a strong defence. There's a few decent fixtures coming up, and you will see the fixture difficulty rating soon, and Everton do play in blank game week 29 as well. Whilst Liverpool are one of the 4 teams that don't feature in blank game week 29, there's absolutely no reason to sell Trent. I know Newcastle aren't the easiest of opponents, but it's Southampton next game week, and both fixtures are at Anfield. You could argue for the next 2 fixtures that he's the best defender to own in the game. That's because he's got his high attacking upside, 2 home fixtures, one's very easy, and Liverpool have the strongest defence in the league. Arsenal have the second best defence in the league, and that's why I've got Gabriel in my team. Forest away is not too bad of a fixture. I know they have been banging them in for fun up until this point, but their expected goals aren't actually that high, and I wouldn't lay a bet against Arsenal keeping a clean sheet this game week. I'm not set on starting Van Dijk this game week. There is a defender on the bench that I could bring in for him, and that's not because I don't like doubling up. I've tripled up on Arsenal defence before, and that's paid off. But for now, the main reason that I've put Van Dijk in is that Liverpool have got slightly higher clean sheet odds, but this isn't locked in. Out of the 2 Liverpool defenders, I'm much more likely to keep Trent through blank game week 29 because I might want to keep the value that I've tied up in him, and obviously he's a better option in the game. I might actually keep Van Dijk. That's if it suits my squad structure, where I've already got 3 starting defenders and want to field 7 attackers for a higher ceiling. My suggestion for a goalkeeper this game week has got to be Jorgensen. He's only 4.2 mil, so you can invest that money in the rest of your squad. They've got Southampton next, and then Leicester, both at home, and with that it's no surprise that they're right at the top of the fixture difficulty ratings. An alternative is Onana. He's 0.8 mil more, but he's not got any fixtures in the next 4 matches, and if you're planning on wildcarding in game week 31, he's technically got easier fixtures than Jorgensen. Or if you want to play it safe and money's no issue, you could go for Raya for 5.5 mil, and Arsenal's defence is much stronger. Like last game week, I've got no insurance on the bench. Fabianski's not playing for West Ham at the minute, and Jai's injured for Everton, and Vandenberg's injured for Brentford, but at least I've got Castagna, and he's a player that might possibly play over Van Dijk. Fulham's defence is still very strong, and Wolves' attack isn't very good, but he is away from home. Last game week I started Castagna and benched Van Dijk for similar reasons that Fulham had an easy fixture, and Liverpool had a difficult fixture. Liverpool kept a clean sheet, and Fulham conceded, but this isn't the reason why I'm starting Van Dijk. Like I said earlier, it's because of the clean sheet odds. Moving on to midfield, a captain seller last game week who got a goal and an assist. I actually didn't doubt him too much against City away because their defensive numbers are average. Newcastle's defensive numbers are better, but they are playing at Anfield this time. But Palmer's got an easy fixture against Southampton at home. Despite him blanking 4 times in the last 5 matches, he's a very strong contender for the captain's armband this game week. I'm not going to spoil the best captain video, but I do think the data will open up some eyes, so if you've not already watched it, make sure you watch it after this video. Whilst Eze's not done anything for a while, and he does blank in blank game week 29, I am going to keep him for the next 2 matches. Villa at home's pretty average, but Ipswich at home is pretty easy, so I do think it's worth keeping him, but I am about to contradict myself with his teammate shortly. Uwatara didn't get me anything last game week, but he's still playing out of position. I don't know how long that's going to last, but even if he's not playing out of position, he's still a really good option, especially for 5.2 mil. He's perhaps the best value for money midfielder, and Bournemouth have quite a few easy fixtures left to go. I don't quite think as much of Sarr as I do Eze, and he's the player that I would probably sell for blank game week 29. That doesn't mean I keep Eze, but it's a bit like Trent and Van Dijk. I would prefer to keep Eze rather than Sarr on my bench. That's just in case I want to keep him on the wild card, but there is a very slim chance of that right now. He'd have to do a lot in the next couple of fixtures. Earlier I did say it would be wrong to sell Eze with the next 2 fixtures. Ironically, Sarr's got the exact same 2 fixtures, and he's a player that will probably sell this game week. Now the reason is I've only got 1 free transfer. I'm not going to take a hit on selling the other one. I'm going to sell the player that I like the least. Even though I will get less money for him, I do have quite a bit of money in the bank. But just because Palace have got good fixtures doesn't mean that other teams haven't, and those teams do play in blank game week 29. So one of the options is Bowen from West Ham. Paqueta's out injured. Seems like he's on penalty duties. He's got a couple of easy fixtures coming up before the wild card. It is worth considering him. There's not much between him and Bruno Fernandes. Bruno's also got a couple of easy fixtures coming up, but he has got an additional hard fixture coming up as well. So I do think I'm leaning slightly more towards Bowen, but that's not locked in. Just to timestamp this video has been recorded on Monday ahead of the press conferences. So if anything gets announced between me recording this video and you watching it, I will announce my changes on Twitter. So far I've recommended 2 midfielders, Bowen and Bruno. There's plenty more where that came from. I think the Bournemouth midfielders are still good to buy. Ouattara stands out as the best value for money. He's playing the furthest forward out of all the midfielders. That's until a forward starts playing anyway, but he might possibly even keep that spot. Semenyo's a good option as well. I do prefer him to Kluivert for the expected minutes. We can't ignore Chelsea at the top of the ticker. They have got one very difficult fixture from an attacking perspective. That's against Arsenal at the Emirates, but at least they've got a fixture in that blank game week. The next 2 are very easy. Southampton at home and Leicester at home. I do fancy them in them ones. If you're not free hitting in blank game week 29, Palmer's got to be the best midfielder to own in the game right now, because Salah does have a blank in blank game week 29. He's right near the bottom of the ticker. Palmer's right at the top. Ironically, if you did free hit in blank game week 29, you would lose the hard fixture for Palmer, which makes him an even better option, but then you could argue, because you get all of the fixtures from Salah, that he's technically the best midfielder to own, because of course it's Salah, and he is more reliable. Last game week I added Nkunku to my shortlist, said I wanted to monitor him against Villa. He got dragged off early, and I'm not really sure if he's going to play up front or not. Neto has shown that he can do that as well. I don't think either of those are reliable, and I don't think Sancho is either. There's a high attacking upside there, but there's also a high risk. I don't think I'm going to roll the dice on that, especially with so many good midfielder options. When it comes to the forwards, we are in the same position as last game week, so what I'm going to say is very similar. The teams at the top, Chelsea and Bournemouth, don't have any forwards playing. Wolves' next 2 fixtures are difficult from an attacking perspective. Some of the best forwards don't have favourable fixtures, which are Isak, Wood and Watkins. Haaland's towards the top of the ticker, but I don't think he's an option for the next couple of game weeks. He might be an option to sell Salah and buy him ahead of blank game week 29, and possibly captain him in game week 30 as well. We will discuss that when it becomes relevant. So my forward recommendation is the same as last game week. He's got 3 easy fixtures coming up from an attacking perspective, which is even better if you're wildcarding after blank game week 29, which is what I'm doing. I think he's got penalty duties as well. I was there in the ground when Everton was awarded a penalty. It was ruled out by VAR, but I did watch that usually a player grabs a ball and the penalty taker stands well away from everyone else. Then they hand it over when they're about to take the penalty, so the other team don't distract them, and Beto was miles away from United's 11 players. I'm not saying that confirms it, because it doesn't, but who else would possibly take them? Calvert-Lewin's injured, and Njai's injured as well. If João Pedro didn't play in blank game week 29, I would have sold him for Beto a few weeks ago. Overall that would have paid off, but not last game week. He got a 12-pointer, and my patience paid off. Lastly is Isak, who's got a difficult fixture against Liverpool away, but he had a difficult fixture from an attacking perspective last game week. He went and banged in 2 goals. It's also West Ham away next game week, which is pretty easy, and I'll probably keep him through the blank game week because he's got Brentford at home and Leicester away after that. I've got plenty of value tied up in him, so don't think I'm going to sell him. My transfer plans are to sell Sarr for Bowen. It could be Bruno though, or another player, or I might even want to keep Sarr for the next 2 fixtures to get the most out of that Ipswich at home match. But whilst this video's been recorded, there haven't been any press conferences yet, so my plans might change. Make sure you're following me on Twitter so you see my final team reveal. One thing I am set on this game week is my captain. Make sure you watch my best captain video if you've not already. I think the data in that video might shock you a little bit.